Good morning. You are listening to Las Vegas in Focus. My name is Stella Kindred, and my guest today is inner development author Vernon Howard. He has written over 30 books with 6 million copies sold worldwide and is also published in 7 foreign languages. Thank you for joining us today, Vernon.
Thank you, Stella, and it's been nice what we're going to discuss this morning. We're going to find out how to actually solve our problems, and we have so many of them.
Sounds great. How can your books and tapes help people who have problems and questions?
The books and tapes and the classes we have ask people to do one thing, which is to examine their daily life and find out where there are worries, where there are concerns, where we feel defeated, and then discover why we feel that way. Take, for example, depression. People get depressed and they don't understand it. The purpose of our classes and the teachings that we have is to enable people to understand their problems away. For example, depression simply occurs because we're living in the wrong part of ourselves inwardly. And by turning on the light of self-knowledge, that light will turn away the depression and we'll feel much superior to the way we feel now.
You teach classes, and where do you teach them?
Yes, we have classes, and it's called the New Life Foundation here in Boulder City, just a short distance away from you, of course. And if anyone wants information on it, just call 293-4444. 293-4444, and we'll tell you all about it. And you'll find it Stella, a very interesting experience to come to the classes, because we don't run into challenges to ourselves very often, and we're challenged in the right way at the classes. And then, best of all, after the challenge comes the solution. People can go out of the classes knowing themselves a little better, and each time you know yourself a little better, you're a bit more free of the world that seems so threatening all the time.
Do these principles help in everyday matters, such as caring for children, handling our finances wisely, and having harmonious relationships?
Well, that's the beauty of it, Stella. The classes and all truth teachings are very practical in that they show us how to take care of the children properly, how to meet an unexpected circumstance, how to get rid of a thought that seems to be nagging us because maybe of a past mistake. If there's any word that describes truth teachings, it is practical and usable. So anyone who comes to the classes or read the books can be quite sure that what they're getting in. And when we know the right answer, oh, how nice. Then we make right decisions. Then we don't regret what we did. And that's a good word, too, to think about just a little bit. Look how often all of us have had regrets and sorrows for past behavior. And then we're worried that we're going to do it again. With these higher teachings, we have also the higher powers that go with them that stop us from doing anything that we would later regret. In other words, we proceed with true intelligence, and in that way no one will ever be able to deceive us anymore, because we're not deceiving ourselves anymore. Self-knowledge, as you just alluded to, self-knowledge is a marvelous thing because it frees us from our own wrong thoughts and actions and reactions.
So self-honesty seems to be a very important part of understanding yourself and others. Why is this so?
Self-honesty comes, let's first of all find out how we get it. Self-honesty comes after a long, long time of watching what we say, watch what we think, watch how we feel, and notice that a lot of them are not honest. For example, let's say, for example, I go out somewhere and I want to impress someone because I want something from you. Let's say I want to impress someone. All right, I'll put on a little act of some kind. Maybe I'll flatter them to make them feel good so that they'll like me. I can notice that I have been dishonest, and I've been dishonest for a self-serving motive. Now, it may seem to me at the time that when I flatter someone in order to get what I want from them, it may seem to me at the time that that's a profitable thing to do, but it isn't, because it means I have defied the spirit of truth that's deep down, very deep down inside me. I have refused it. And after a while, as I get seeing that I am the cause of my own grief with other people, that I get wrongly involved in them because there's something not accurate within myself, that will make me want to stop being untrue to myself, and that in turn will reveal the real virtues and the real niceness of being true to my original nature. My original nature being that which is simply very simple, very honest, and very forthright, and doesn't want to try to deceive anyone for any purpose at all. So there's a lot to think about right in that. And again, in our classes, we go into considerable detail of all these facts, and anyone who wants to understand them can do so.
Well, that's very enlightening. We all suffer from a wish to appear important, and it certainly is a useless desire.
Yes. Let me go into another point I just covered about the past.
Certainly.
The past, unfortunately, controls our present. It doesn't have to be that way, but it is. That is, we have learned wrong behavior, we've learned these wrong ways to behave toward others, and we don't see that they are self-defeating, and so we continue with them. And that means that we're always going to not only be controlled by the past, but we're going to have deep regrets of the past. By understanding the idea of time, which is an enormous topic in itself and too much to go into right now, by understanding the idea of time and non-time, we can learn how to cancel the past. That is, the past foolish things that we did, the mistakes and the heartaches that we suffered. We can stop being a victim of them. And that, again, is something that we can observe within ourselves, that we are suffering. And then, if you don't want to suffer, you can understand how you can cancel the past. That's a miraculous statement in itself. We can cancel the past and live only from the free present moment. And when we do that, then there is no past to misguide us, to make us do the wrong thing over and over again. For example, how many times have we made the vow that we're not going to get mad again? We vowed I'll never get mad again, and then we went out and got mad again. That's because the past was too much for us. At the classes here at New Life Foundation, we show you how the present, the pure present, can be the power that can conquer all past errors and take away that heartache that we have over the foolish things we've done in the past.
These answers supply a lot of help for people who suffer from business failures, personal bankruptcies, work stoppages, divorce, even the anger that comes from relationships can make us abuse one another.
Yes, that's quite right, and that ties in with what we talked about earlier, that truthful teachings are extremely practical in all the topics you just mentioned. We learn that we can leave hurt feelings in back of us. But here's another interesting point, and here's another thing that we cover very much in our classes. People have a very strange fondness for heartache. They like to suffer. They like to cry. They like to be dramatic. Now, we can either have that or we can have freedom from that. We can't have both. Obviously, a person can't like hurt feelings and be free of hurt feelings. So we must see how we've fallen in love with the wrong thing. How we've fallen in love with, for example, anger or hatred toward another person. And that hostility gives us a very strange feeling that we, in the class, we call a false feeling of life. Now that false feeling of life, whether it's anger or thought of revenge or whatever, it seems to give us life, but it doesn't. And anyone in a state of anger can just notice how much it burns, how much it hurts. With the knowledge that heartache and anger hurt, we will no longer want to have anything to do with them because we see how they're consuming our life instead of giving us life. Now, nobody said this was easy to understand, Stella, but the nice part of it is it can be and must be understood. So this is one reason why we're very nicely tough out there. We don't allow ourselves to get away with anything. We can't be easy on ourselves anymore as we have in the past. And we're going to see, and just face the fact, how easily we are offended, how quickly and how often we feel insulted, and then know that these wrong reactions, feeling insulted, have robbed us of being happy in the present moment. How can a person be happy and be miserable at the same time. Impossible. So if we see, first of all, that we're burning in hostility, we can also see that we have robbed ourselves of, you can call it peace of mind, call it quietness. So we have to make up our mind, don't we, which we want.
Uh-huh.
And we show people how you can do that. We show them that there is no value, no virtue at all in being irritable, in being resentful toward anyone else. We show them that there's no value in it whatever. And as the individual understands this, he becomes absolutely delighted to give up the dark in favor of the light. And when he gives up the dark, that is the anger, that makes room for the light, which then comes in, and he's a new man, a new woman, and a very nice man or a nice woman to be with, because he's living with the spirit of truth.
Well, that's very helpful, I'm sure, for our listening audience who get caught up in the high-stress living here in Las Vegas. Why do we hide our fears and anxieties instead of facing and ending them?
Yeah, that's because we've all learned, Stella, since we're little children, we've learned to put on masks, we've learned to put on costumes, we've learned to say, for example, we can all remember it when we were children, when we were a child, someone hurt us, and we said, well, that you can't hurt me, that doesn't hurt me, and all the time we were hurting while we said it. Well, we said it as little children, but unfortunately, we grew up with that same sort of self-deception, trying to deceive the other person and to pretend that we're strong, that we weren't hurt. But it doesn't work, does it? Because we know that when we say, yeah, you can't hurt me, I don't care what you do anything you want, doesn't hurt me, we know that we're kidding ourselves. Now here's again where our self-honesty comes in. If something hurts me real bad in the world, someone leaves me that I wanted to hold, or I lost some money or whatever, if at that moment I can know that I felt bad and not pretend that I'm taking it okay, then I'm face to face with what I must be face to face with, which is that I have an internal problem, that there's something wrong. Because it is wrong for me to get furious and rageful toward anything that happens toward me. If I get mad, I have simply added the second problem to the first one. What I want to do, if I lose the person that I wanted to keep, if I lose my money, if nobody invites me to the party, I'm going to be so strong within myself that I don't need that person. I don't need that party. I don't need that acceptance by the other person or by the group. I don't need their applause. And any human being on this earth who sets his mind to it can find this higher level of insight and of living, so that he can be in this world but not be of it. That is his inner, let's call it spiritual strength. His inner spiritual strength is stronger than the worldly world. It can't do a thing to him because it can't reach him. A man standing on top of a hill looking down at the freeway traffic, he's not involved in the smog and the crashes and the close collisions. He's not involved in the cars at all, the mad traffic. He's above it. And that's a good illustration to remember as a right aim, that we can be above the world when we're above our old nature.
Well, that's worth working for. According to a report from Nevada's Division of Mental Hygiene and Mental Retardation, on a per capita basis, Nevada ranks first nationally in alcohol consumption, alcohol-related deaths, violent crime, divorce, personal bankruptcy, housing permits, and new residents. This explosive growth adds considerably to stress, and Nevadans certainly need something to guide them into a more quieter frame of mind.
Yes, I understand everything you say, and what you said is clearly observable, isn't it?
Yes.
As we look around. And let me invite, again, people to come out to New Life Foundation here in Boulder City and find out what it's all about. It's a nice, pleasant, cheerful, happy place. You'll meet people who want to solve their problems, who want to avoid the dangers of this world, which is a sensible thing to do. And if you call 293-4444, we'll tell you all about it. We'll send you literature or give you information on the phone. And you can take your first step to finding out how to live on this mountaintop above the raging world. So, and your problems will fall away, because we do create our own without realizing it. That's the problem, Stella. We don't see how we're our own worst enemy. And what we can learn to do is be our own best friend.
That sounds great. What should be said to someone who feels defeated by life?
Feel defeated by life, and it's simply a thought. And the very thought that you're defeated by life can be put away. It's not a reality at all. It is the ego self, the defeated self, that feels defeated. And when, through right study and through allowing truth to come in and reveal itself to us, then the very idea of defeat vanishes, because there's no one there to be defeated. You see, a person says, oh, I want to be a winner, but instead of being a winner, I'm a loser. And that's awful to be a loser. But he doesn't realize that all the time, when he's a winner, he is just as unhappy as he was before, because he's simply giving himself a label. And the label can do absolutely nothing for a human being. It can just give him the appearance of being all right, of being okay. But he doesn't feel that way. And here again, for the third time, I think, the idea of self-honesty enters it. With self-honesty, everything can be accomplished. Without it, a man cannot change, a woman cannot change. So let's all be self-honest and invite the light to come in and show us how to be a permanent winner. That is, one which is up on the mountaintop and not trying to get ahead of the other car down in the traffic. Because when you do that, you try to beat the other man to the cutoff so you can get off sooner. He's trying to beat you. And now you're in competition and you're in hostility with each other. When you're back home on top of the mountain, then you don't have to try to win over anyone. You have a higher type of winning. And that is very innocent, and that's very, very nice to feel. That's true feelings, right feelings.
Well, that's certainly helpful for people who are weary.
Oh yes. And let's make a little personal test, Stella, you and I and everyone. Just watch people as they walk by you on the street, and you'll see exactly what you just said, Stella. Weary faces, weary people. They don't even know they're walking down the street. They have so little self-awareness. They're just thinking of the next good fortune that's going to come their way, which it isn't, by the way, because you can't find it in this world. You can only find it in the higher world. Then let's, most of all, look at ourselves and see how dreary and afraid we are. And don't be afraid to see that we're afraid, because that self-honesty is the beginning of ridding ourselves of all fear, of all apprehension. Then there is nothing in this world that can threaten us again. We'll be above it.
That sounds delightful.
It is delightful.
Right here on campus, Professor Anthony Seville of Education Administration said he believes that southern Nevada's climate and wide open spaces do much to control stress. But he said that the area's high suicide rate might be attributed to the fact that people come here for problem solving. The idea is that if they come here, they will find a job and solve all their problems. But they find out it is tough as anywhere else. Do you have some principles which we can start life all over with?
Oh, yeah. A little comment on what you just said, Stella. Of course, when you go anywhere, you bring yourself with you. And, for example, if you bring a lonely nature from one city to another city, one state to another state, then you're going to face it right where you arrive, when you arrive, are you not?
Yes.
So there again is a type of self-deception. But here's the nice part of it, to answer your question about the brightness and what can be done. The nice part of it is, wherever we are, I don't care how many defeats we've had, what a wretched life we've had in the past, how many quarrels, how many divorces, no matter what past problems are, truth and reality is waiting for that individual sitting all alone in his motel room, wondering what to do next for himself. Truth is ready to instruct him how to shatter the darkness that is taking him over without even realizing it. All it takes is the willingness on the part of that dreary, lonely individual to say, I'm going to get up and shake my head and get out of here, out of the hotel room, and I'm going to try to find a place where I'm told the truth about myself, and if it hurts at first, I'm going to take that hurt and I'm going to go all the way in order to shake myself out of my psychic sleep, which is what he's in, by the way. And this is why what New Life is just waiting for any individual to hear. And we have an awful lot of people who come from all religions, from all backgrounds. We have businessmen. We even have psychologists. We have people who marvelously have come to that very stage where they don't know what to do next. When you don't know what to do next, that is a real opportunity. That means you're going to raise your head, both physically and spiritually speaking, raise your head and try to find the higher answer. And marvelously, the higher answer exists. Let's all get up and shake off the sleep and go to work and find ourselves, find reality.
Sounds great. For those who have tuned in late, we are talking with author Vernon Howard, who has written some 30 books on inner development and is answering some questions that we need here in Nevada on stress. This New Life you talk about, is this something that can be achieved in a few weeks or a few months? How long does it take before a person sees results?
First of all, a person comes, let me get the phone number for New Life Foundation here in Boulder City. We have classes 4 times a week. Just give the number and they'll give you full information. Call 293-4444. You'll get the full and delightful facts on it. When a person comes, of course, at the start, they're not quite sure what it's all about, but they soon find out. What it's all about is blunt, but extremely kindly self-revelation. In other words, we face the fact that we have a problem that we've never been able to solve. Now, there's your self-honesty, your self-sincerity. Once we have faced the problem, then we come to another shock, but a healthy shock, which is the problem is not the world out there, not the ex-spouse, not the fact I got fired after 50 years down at the factory. We find out that really, honestly, is not the problem. The problem is the fact that I'm living with the wrong person. I'm living with an old, imaginary, worthless, really, nature that always feels bad. And when I see that I've been living with the wrong person, I've been living with a delusory self, thinking that it was real, I have made a long leap already toward getting out of the traffic jam and to the top of the hill. But I have to stick with it. I must persist with it. I can't run away, and I can't pretend that I can do it all alone. No one can save himself without God, truth, reality. No one can save himself without that, because the old nature is the enemy of truth and reality. So what we have to do is see what we must abandon. Vanity, pride, egotism, pretense that we already know. How many people do we run into and they say, I don't need help, I've got it made, I'm making the money and all that. But you can tell by their facial expressions that they're lost. We'll show people at New Life Foundation how to go from lostness to foundness, and then they'll be happy and free and be quite comfortable with themselves.
Sounds great.
It is great.
Can you give us some guiding thoughts for the next week or so?
Yes. First of all, let's review briefly what we've covered so far. There is a problem. The problem of insecurity, the problem of self-doubt, and we want something else, but we don't know how to find it. And so we think that the next romance is going to do it, or the next bonus down at the factory, the next new high commission of getting the sale is going to do it. We have wrong ideas about what is going to make us feel better. When we see that everything we do only finally and eventually ends in depression and despondency and gloom. When we understand that, that makes us want to stop finding the wrong answers. And we know when we no longer want the wrong answers, we make room for the new ones. And they will come. However, an individual does need help. We all need help in getting out of ourselves because we're so closely glued to ourselves. So again, let me urge you, come and find out what it's all about at New Life Foundation. Call 293-4444.
Sounds great.
It is. And a person can prove it for himself. Don't just say, well, that man said it's good. I want to find out for myself, and we want you to find out for yourself. Self-proof is the only proof, right?
Right. And here in Southern Nevada, the attendance at state mental hospitals, clinics, and psychiatric hospitals has grown to 25,000 people per year.
Yes.
So we know that it's a big problem here in Southern Nevada, at least in the state as a whole.
Yes. We talk a lot about sanity in our classes because we see so much of the opposite of it. We see so much madness, what you just talked about. Mental hospitals are packed. and so many tens of thousands who are not inside the hospital or walking around in the same confused state. Sanity comes, and sanity is the same thing, by the way, as authentic happiness. Sanity comes when we see that we have been doing the wrong thing with our lives, and not being afraid to admit it. If we can just, let me use the simplest phrase that we ever use, we can simply drop our pride and admit that we've been foolish, we've been wrong, then the dropping of that gives us an opportunity to first begin to find something that's above our own intellect. We must rise above our own mind. And what is above our own mind is a spiritual nature. And then that spiritual nature will begin to instruct the mind, instruct the body, instruct the emotions, instruct our daily behavior, so that we are doing what is truly good and healthy for ourselves. Oh, I'll tell you, it is all good news for anyone who starts toward the upward path to reach the mountaintop.
Well,
get help all the way.
Thank you very much for joining us today.
Nice being with you.
You have been listening to Las Vegas in Focus. Our guest has been Vernon Howard. For information on controlling stress, phone 293-4444. Good day.